Welcome to the Franchise Podcast with me, Ed Purnell, and today I'm joined with the ever knowledgeable and helpful John. John,
I'll take it. I'll go with John. John, you were focusing so much on nailing Pomfret that you,
I just
honestly,
called
mate,
you John.
you had that.
I'm
Yeah,
going to crack on from
I've been
here.
called. Yeah, cool. We'll move on. We'll move on.
I'll just crack
Thank
on
you.
from here. So, yeah, I'm here with the ever helpful George Pomfret, one of the go-to people in the UK when it comes to franchise resales. So, George works for Franchise Resales and specialises in helping franchise owners exit well and helps buyers to establish or step into established franchise brands. So I've known George for a little while now, and what I think is really interesting about his experience is that he's involved in all sides of the fence when it comes to selling franchises. He's worked with franchisors, he's worked with a
hmm
franchise marketing company, and he's now focused on the franchise resale side of things. Although he did that bit in the past as well, I know. So we'll come on to that in a moment. But what really caught my eye and what made me think, let's have a chat, is that I saw you post, I think it's a week or two ago now,
hmm
about a franchise buyer that you had that seems to be pretty keen. They've got a chunk of money. They've got a few parameters, and I
hmm
wanted to kind of dive into that and understand the process for that person, what their mindset is, what they're looking for, and what puts them off or what attracts them, so that not only I can learn, but franchisors can learn as well. So
Of
yes,
course.
George, welcome to the franchise podcast, and thank you for sharing some time with us today.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Thank you for the intro. Very kind introduction, I have to say. And yeah, looking forward to sort of diving into the resales a little bit deeper, mate.
Cool. And apologies for messing up the beginning, but there we go. We're here. So,
John Pomfret's off to a flying
John
start. I'll
Pomfret's
take it.
loving it. Good
We're good to
stuff.
go.
So, I've given you people a little bit of a brief background on yourself, but could you
Mhm.
just share with us a little bit about your journey, how and why you've ended up, working within the franchise sales arena, or franchise resales
Yeah,
arena, should
yeah.
I say?
I'll try not to bore people too much. It's quite a, you can tell I'm look about 12 and a half, so my experience and history is relatively short and compared to the stalwarts that you've had on the show so far, Ed. So yeah, I guess starting off, I actually joined franchising as my first job. So I joined as an apprentice to what is Franchise Resales, the company I'm at now. Originally back in what 10 years ago now. So whatever year we're in, minus 10 years. So yeah, 2026, 2027. Joined Franchise Resales as an apprentice. Long story short, I wanted to get an apprenticeship to get a qualification to be able to join the Royal Marines as an officer.
Okay.
This was a local opportunity to me and gave me the opportunity, as I say, to get the qualification. It was also doing something that I quite enjoyed, which was speaking to people and work towards the idea of building life experience in terms of speaking to businesses. It was sort of a big checkbox for what I wanted to do, which was, as I say, join as an officer in the Royal Marines. And look, joined franchise resales and very quickly fell in love with not just the business world, but the franchising world, i.e., the people within it, the networks within it, the sellers within it, the buyers within it, the whole ecosystem basically, which I think is fairly similar to most people. You sort of fall into it and you don't tend to leave, or you leave pretty quickly. So yeah, that's my story. Basically, worked in franchise resales for a good few years, doing a number of different roles, getting experience, moved around as you've mentioned. Um, Various companies, various franchisors, gained a load of experience and seen things from lots of different perspectives. And yeah, basically ended back at franchise resales with a lot of experience under my belt and a lot of, I guess, perspective under my belt, and utilizing that to support franchisors and sellers and buyers to, yeah, make better resales for going forward, basically.
Nice one.
I
Well,
hope
thank you
that's
for.
all right.
Yeah, no, it's perfect, mate. I know you don't want me to dig into the background too much, so we're just going to crack on into the business stuff. But no, it's interesting to hear that you dropped into the industry and fell in love with it. I think yeah, anybody who's been in and around the industry for a while it's the same sort of journey, right? There's just something about the support, the community that's just magic and special. So yeah,
Absolutely, mate.
d-
Absolutely. A whole
d-
episode in itself.
yeah, oh, totally, yeah, cool. So, franchise resales then. So, I'd anticipate that a lot of people that do listen to the franchise podcast understand and know about it already, but I guess there might be a few people that aren't aware of what franchise resales is all about. So,
Mhm.
could you explain to the audience and perhaps to me, I guess, so I might be able to learn something here as well, the differences between just standard franchise recruitment and franchise resales from a high
Yeah,
level?
yeah. I guess from a high level, franchise recruitment is about putting pins in a territory and expanding a brand across the UK from starting point, or across a location from a starting point, and getting going from a starting point where resales is essentially buying into one of them places that was once a starting point but has now established itself and has some numbers behind it, some proof behind it, some results behind it to sell it as an existing business. So basically, a franchise resale is an existing franchise, whereas of course a new start franchise is the theory of getting to an existing franchise.
Yeah, I guess there's a different mindset around the person, right? You is it kind of an investor type person that you'd be looking at for resales rather than, I guess you could have a career changer, couldn't you? That steps into a new territory, fresh territory.
Yeah, I think um, the the immediate perception is, of course, resale, existing numbers. People think investment. I see it as you sort of alluded to there. I always sort of refer to buyers, to sellers, to franchisors as there's different, if you want to call it, job roles that people are either stepping out of desire, or are already or are aspiring to get to, and that's operator, i.e. worker, manager, supervisor, manager, senior manager, director, senior director, C-suite, that sort of thing. And I guess the type of buyers that we deal with are, instead of looking from going from a manager, director, senior director to an operator, which often a new start is going back to being the operator. They're looking to go sideways or upwards, or sideways and slightly down, but not looking to sort of start the journey again, if that makes sense. So yeah, I always look at it as a ladder of roles, and they're looking to move sideways, or potentially a little bit up, potentially a little bit down, depending on their investment, the opportunity, skill sets, etc. So yeah, that's probably the best
Yeah,
perspective I have on it.
it's a really good point because I've seen it within franchise brands where somebody is ex CEO of a large organization and then they're told
Hmm.
to get on the phone, do some email marketing and things like that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like going back 30 years in their career for some people, right? So if
absolutely,
they've
mate.
if they've got the money to invest, like you say, it's more of a sideways step or slightly sideways, and slightly down maybe step to take
Hmm.
on a different business. It's more appealing, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
and I think we should dive into it in a moment, like what appeals to that type of person. But I mentioned at the beginning we had that you've got this hot buyer at the moment, right? I think that's what you put in the post. Somebody who's hot to
It,
trot, whatever it is. I can't remember
yeah,
the words now.
absolutely. Yeah, I call them hot buyers. They're tagged on my system under hot buyers, so that's what we call them. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So they've got somewhere between half a million and £1 million
Hmm.
proof of funds, which I guess you guys have got a system that you go through where you find out and make sure they've got the capital available right now, or
Absolutely.
or able to fund it, a source to fund it.
Hmm.
Um, Looking for UK only. I was just wondering how typical is that type of profile? Is that the sort of person that you see all the time, or is this a bit of a unicorn kind of buyer?
Yeah. Honestly, it's all the time. If I had the opportunities, then yeah, these buyers would buy them. Unfortunately, so unfortunately, it's going in the right direction as a whole. The UK sort of resales market is still maturing, networks are still maturing, and because of that, a lot of what these buyers want, aren't in abundance. They're never going to be in complete abundance because of how territory mapping works, etc. But yeah, I would say there's yeah, I could run a report now and have a look at how many hot buyers we have on our system, proof of funds, cash in excess of 100, 200, 500, a million in some cases. You don't tend to get much more over that because they're obviously invested into other places. But yeah, it's very, very typical. What's not so typical, as I say, is necessarily the opportunities for them people right away.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess what sort of turnover business would typically work for someone like that then? What sort of revenues are they looking for?
Yeah, so just give me that example again that I had for. I know it's my hot buy, but I speak to buyers all the time. What sort of investment level was that again?
So you said between 500,000 and £1 million pounds. They were
Yeah.
looking for something that wasn't food and beverage or care. They wanted to go down a different avenue.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we just keep the sort of maths really simple on that, if you say that they've got between 500,000 to 1 million, they can typically, using the 30% down, 70% bank funding route that we all sort of hear in franchising for franchise resales, they're of course able to borrow, 1.5 million to £3 million at that sort of level. Well, not borrow it. That's the total project cost that they have to purchase an opportunity in the working capital and whatnot. At that sort of level, you're looking at profits in excess of, between £500,000 to, in that case, you're going up to 3 mil. You're probably looking at about £1 million EBIT, really, i.e. adjusted profits, free cash flow in the business. Yeah, and there, it's not a surprise, I'm sure you've seen plenty of these brands, but there are a good number of businesses out there that do that. It's just finding them at the right time when they're looking to retire or when they want to capitalize on their investment. Obviously it's been a relatively uncertain period over recent years, so a lot of people are sort of sitting on their hands with good opportunities like this. So that's why I take a bit more of a proactive approach of, speaking to franchisors, speaking to franchisees that have, tentatively asked questions and finding out when the right time is and putting stuff out on LinkedIn, trying to poke the hornet's nest because they're out there. It's just a case of when. But yeah, on that example, mate, I'd say £500,000 to £1 million EBIT's what you'd be looking at for that sort of buyer.
Yeah, like you say, there's not so many of them around. I mean, there are brands that have franchisees generating that, but there's still a hell of a lot that are turning over under half a million, isn't there? So
Hmm.
if we look at, there's only a thousand different franchise systems in the UK. Yeah, I can see why it can be a tough market for you on that side. So
Mm.
do
Yeah.
let's say an opportunity comes up then, from the buyer's perspective. Are they all chomping at the bit and ready to just hand over the money and get going? I know they're not. I know they're not. By the way, I can see you
Yeah.
smiling. But
Yeah.
what are they?
Don't we
What
all?
are they looking for? What are they trying to scrutinise? How are they making sure it is the right opportunity for them? Because I think for a lot of franchisors, they know they get to speak to people who are looking to change career or start their first ever business, that kind of thing. But these people that are well funded, I think there's a different mindset. So I'm interested to hear from you. What's their what are they looking for?
Yeah, for sure. So just taking a tiny, tiny step backwards on the last point around what they could afford and the £500,000 EBIT and the £1 million EBIT, it could actually be a cluster of the same brand or a cluster of different opportunities that make up that £1 million EBIT. That's obviously how
Okay,
we
yeah,
position it, how we put it. But of course, it works for some brands and doesn't for others in terms of some want you to own or operate and have sole focus on the brand, etc. Especially the domiciliary care businesses out there. So yeah, just that's a step back to the last question, I guess, on the question that you've just asked around what a buyer's looking for, and specifically well capitalized buyers. I guess really, if I was to put it into if you want to call it buckets, I'd probably say that there's three buckets with a resale that's quite consistent, almost regardless of level. And that's, proof, uh, proof in the numbers that the business is doing, the numbers that they're telling you, and the reasons that they're giving behind them. Is that correct? And there needs to be some solid sort of backing up of them numbers. Proof of the story as well. Why are they selling? Is that really why they're selling? People, you know, all the time say that they're looking to retire. But are they genuinely looking to retire? Have they got something else that they've got in mind? Are they jetting off to Barbados? So yeah, proof is a really big one. Or are they looking to sell because they're tired of the business or they don't feel it can grow it? How realistic, how true is that? So first bucket I'd always say is buyers look for with a resale is proof, and that's because the difference between a resale and a used start anyway is the data behind it, i.e. all of the evidence, all of the proof that the business has them customers, has followed that trajectory, etc. So yeah, number one's proof. Number two, I'd say, is transferability. It probably goes back to what we were talking about earlier around being able to make a sideways sort of step in the business. If you are going to buy a business and it's going to be really difficult on day one when you take that over, when the old owner sort of steps away, and that process is going to be a massive headache. That can affect the business. It can put the business at risk. It can put the financials at risk. It can put growth plans at risk. And it's not to the detriment of the seller anymore. It's the detriment to the buyer and, of course, the franchisor. So, yeah, proof and transferability are definitely one and two. I.e., can I step into this business on day one and it run as it's currently running? And that works at every level. So if you've got uh, I'm just going to use an example of a gardening business where the current seller operates that business day to day, and they're going around customers, homes and carrying out their services. Can I, have they got a very unique approach that I can that I can step into and carry out the same as what they do? Or is it so unique that actually the customers aren't going to like how I approach things? So, and that goes for if you've got if you're sat in a director, senior director, C-suite level role in a franchise, and you've got a group of directors or a group of managers underneath you, how well are they going to work with you as the new owner in comparison to the person exiting the business? There's always a handover period, but yeah, transferability is a huge thing that the buyers look at, even if
I
they
guess
don't
there's
say
an.
it.
Sorry, I was going
Sorry,
to
mate.
say. I guess there's a piece around kind of personality and work style or charisma. There's something, isn't there? Like if like you say, that person who goes round to all the different people's houses and mows the lawns, or to all the
Mm.
customers' houses and mows the lawns, he's going to
Hmm.
build a relationship with those people.
Of course.
If they disappear, is the client going to disappear? Did they were they just keeping them on because they liked them and just liked seeing that face every week or something like that? Do you know what I mean?
100%.
There's all
Yeah.
sorts of different reasons like that, isn't there? That people will stick with somebody. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, mate. And
no,
and
that
and,
makes
and
sense.
that's as I say, at all levels. It's not necessarily what a buyer's telling you when you're having conversations with them, but it's definitely the thing that's keeping them up at night. Because you can have the best numbers in the world, you can have the cleanest business in the world, everything can be perfect, and the buyer will still be thinking, actually, if the business is so perfect, can I do as good a job as the current
Yeah.
seller? So yeah, proof transferability definitely one or two, probably in that order. Um, and then third point, God, I lost my train of thought. The third point's yeah, it's
Sorry.
growth. I hate to use the word potential, so I wanted to use the word growth or upside. Is you know you buy a resale because of the proof behind it and because you can step into it day one and of course generate cash. But a lot of the time people, as I mentioned, will take out bank funding on businesses, usually quite substantial amount of bank funding as well, and they need to be able to make the profit that the business is currently making plus what they owe to the banks, and then ideally plus a little bit more on top of that. So they want to see upside, they want to see potential. I hate the word potential in resales, but they do want to know that you know. good example in today's world is they're not utilizing things like Google Ads as well as they could, or they're not working as well with the marketing team to produce marketing material on a local level that will help them win customers, or um, you know the current management team that they've got in place aren't incentivized as well as they can, or haven't had the correct sales training, which might actually be the bag of the buyer. So yeah, just making sure that someone. I guess the third point, what would you be looking for as a buyer? You'd be looking for upside. You'd be looking to know that I'm not just going to buy this business and maintain it at its current level. You're going to be able to take it, to the next level, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
so is that driven by their ego? They want to be the person that grows the business even further, or is that purely financial and therefore there's probably some other motivations behind why they need more money or want more money? So, yeah, is it
Yeah.
there? Because I'd imagine for some people they don't want to just buy a business to let it run itself. They want to have an
Yeah.
impact, right? There's some ego to it.
100%. And I think a lot of franchisors also set the tone pretty early that if you're coming into this business, you we don't want you to be buying into the business to see it sit at its current level. We want to see it grow because that benefits the franchisor as well. So, I think yeah, there's definitely an element of ego. I think there's definitely an element of financial benefit, of course, in terms of the reoccurring revenue in the business, paying off debts sooner, or paying off debts altogether, and of course having a bigger asset as a result of it to eventually sell for more in the future. They're all, yeah, massively part of it. But I think it also, with business as you grow them, it obviously causes constraints and pressures and potential issues as you grow, but it also offers elements of flexibility, at the same time. The bigger you can grow that business, the bigger steps you can take and the bigger steps up you can take in that business, the further you can remove yourself from that business does give you flexibility. A good portion of, if you want to call it, the franchisees that sell with us that run um, more substantial businesses that they've grown, and that's respective to the business that they've bought, substantial irrespective of the business that they bought, have that flexibility to go. So, I called one today, for example, that's coming on the market with us, and I can't give too much away, but they're at the moment driving down to a family friend, because there's been a bit of an emergency there. They've got the flexibility to do that because they have a manager and a full team. They didn't have that going back 3-4 years ago, when they purchased the franchise. So yeah, I think lifestyle does come into it. I think it's a mixture of all of it, to be honest, mate. But yeah, franchisor ego, financial benefit, and relieving financial pains. But yeah, I definitely think it's underestimated in resales how much lifestyle sort of is in their sort of thought process, because the numbers speak for themselves. They
Yeah.
they do also think to themselves, well, if I do that and I did end up worst case scenario just maintaining it, you know, could I get away with living the life that I want to on that money, but also with the benefit of being my own boss as opposed to being in corporate or working for someone that I don't like, or usually being in an employed role. So yeah, all of them factors, but lifestyle definitely plays into it.
Yeah, I've tended to sort of break it down. There's kind of four reasons why people tend to make a move in whatever they're doing, whether it's a career
Hmm.
change or if it's investing in a franchise or starting their own business. It's typically down to one of these four things. So sometimes it's just a new challenge. Some people just are fed up of doing the same thing, being an accountant for 30
Yeah,
years. They go, do you know what? I need to do something else. So they
100%.
take a step into something else, and starting your own business is a way to do that, but also investing in a franchise is another way. More control is the second bucket, and probably the most common one, and probably overlaps some of the others. That what I mean by that is more control over their time, how much they earn, when
Yeah,
they
yeah.
work, those kind of
Hmm.
things. Where they work from, they've got full control. There's some people who are very they want to give back give back. They're very altruistic. You know, they want to help other people, have an impact on their local community, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or there's a reason. You know, you often hear about these people who start these businesses who something's happened to them in their life, and they're maybe trying to rectify that problem.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah.
So impact's another one. And then the final one, I can never remember or never think of the right way to say it, but it's kind of just this feeling of importance, that they want that next job title to become a director or the CEO because that makes them feel
Yeah.
important, or they
Of
want
course.
to be seen as a business owner because that's important for them to be able to say to their friends and family. So
Absolutely, mate.
it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit ego. I guess it's around their ego, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think normally those are the kind of four main reasons why people look to change whatever it is they're doing.
hmm
What you said as your first point, though, proof is
hmm
the is important thing to factor into it as well, though.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely some similarities. The kind of, is it transferable though? Yeah, that's a slightly different one, I would say, within
Yeah.
franchise resales, because yeah, I can imagine saying, I'm going to take over this business. Can it run with me learning for the first 6 months, or do we need to
Mm.
have the seller on board for 6 months to create a transition?
Sorry, mate, I was getting a
It,
call then. If you heard
that's
that,
all right.
oh, it's cool.
No, we did.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't hear it, but
That's all right. Yeah.
uh, yeah. Or did you know? Is it all reliant on that individual's personality, and will it crumble the other side? So yeah, I think it's really interesting. But how how much of the resale then is built on trust or reliant on trust? Because as much as the seller can say something, how how easy is it to evidence everything, you know, from the buyer's perspective?
Yeah. Really good question, mate. There's always an element of trust, and I guess that's why with all of the resales that we deal with, we have, buyer and seller, of course, meet each other on multiple occasions, and we um, try as much as we can, of course, to be the middleman and sit in between and be a sort of ear to both parties, but we do try and have them talk to each other throughout, because the reality is not just commercials have to be considered into it, i.e., is everything that you're saying making sense, need to be done. There's also the element of things like the operational side of things, i.e., handover, leaving the business in a good state for handover, for completion, etc., need to be sort of taken into account. So yeah, I think that it's a really important point, and I guess using a broker, in reality, we understand what buyers need to see in order to start gaining trust, first of all, in the business. And once they've gained trust in the business and we start introducing them conversations, we also understand how to prepare sellers and also how to prepare buyers to make sure that, that the conversations that they have are within certain boundaries, but also allow for trust building rather than trust sort of taking away. So yeah, I'd say that's probably a key point of what we do, to be honest, is working with both parties to build that sort of mutual trust. Um, yeah, there's only so much trust that you can build through solicitors, unfortunately, because they're looking to on black and white piece of paper agree commercial terms. Sometimes you do have to sit down between both parties and say, you know, this is what it says on paper, and what's factually correct, and what's black and white, but this is the color to it, and there is color in business, as you know. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a massive part of it, man.
And I
There can
guess,
be the best deal in the world for a seller or the best opportunity in the world for the buyer, but if there's no trust involved, there's no deal to be had.
yeah. So like you say, I guess that a big part of that is your job to prompt them and make sure that they're asking the right questions, so that any of their fears or concerns are
Yeah.
from both parties are overcome early doors, I guess, or as soon as possible. But I got a question around kind of the collateral or content that the franchisor or the seller provides to the buyer. Is there do they have packs that they send through to them? Do they create video content and show them, what a day in the life is like in the business? Yeah, what sort of things they do like to help outside of those conversations to build trust?
Yeah, great question, mate. So, typical and very standard things that have traditionally happened and continue to happen are, of course, prospectuses. And what I mean by that is a detailed information pack, however that's displayed. Lots of pretty pictures in some cases, showcasing the opportunity from a factual point of view, but of course from a results point of view, a transferability point of view, but of course a potential or an upside point of view. So yeah, the first thing is prospectuses tend to find that there's detailed packs that are provided to buyers to give them the general context of the opportunity. So that's number one.
Is that different to a standard franchise prospectus?
Uh,
So what I mean is
yeah,
for new territories. Okay, so it's
yeah,
not tailored
yeah.
for
Yeah, so
resales.
so I'm obviously going to speak from our perspective, but there's always, of course, the understanding of the brand within that, and of course, an overview of the brand, i.e., the franchisor's business. But it is more specific to the individual territory, the individual that's running it, the staff that work within it, how that business runs, what the numbers are, and not just what the numbers are, but the context behind that as well. The numbers that they are, why they're their numbers, what they invest into marketing, where they do, how come. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's various different levels of sort of information depending on the business, depending on the operator, depending on what's provided, depending on what we can get. But yeah, as a whole, that gives a general overview to the buyer to be able to say, this is something that I'm interested in or not. And then look, the context really is yes, I'm gonna call it the fluffy stuff, but is um, the videos. So, we tend to have sellers give, video tours of units or of offices. I know it sounds really silly. A serviced office is a service office, but being able to understand, where your office is in that, or where the staff work, or the dynamics of the office, or where the storeroom is sometimes, really, really useful. So, and obviously we've got things like WhatsApp and whatnot now, which makes it so much more accessible to be able to do that. Um, so yeah, look, content wise, prospectus, some bits around, tours of office, showroom, etc. But I still think it comes down to a lot of the basics, which is from our perspective, the process that we follow is help them generally understand the opportunity, put them in front of the franchisor to understand the overall picture, non-specific to that business. So, what's the brand looking to do? What are the network looking to do? What do people within the network typically do? How does that potentially compare to the opportunity that they're looking at? Are they, you know, the context is, are they looking at buying a top opportunity within the business that would immediately make them a high performing franchisee within that business, or are they looking to buy one with, that upside that's, lower down the board? And I guess what we do is we go through a process of context and content from an overview point of view, context and content from a franchisor's point of view, and that often falls onto the franchisor to provide a lot of that, which isn't always specific to resales, but at least you can take a lot of information from that and draw parallels. And then, of course, from a seller side of things, it can often depend on what the buyer is specifically looking for and their specific pain points are. And sometimes that can be more so on the financial side of things. Sometimes it can be more on the operational side of things. So, organizational charts, employee contracts, all of that sort of stuff. So it tends to be more factual and less sort of, I'm going to call it fluff, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
it goes back to that number one thing of proof. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that proof is important because you don't have the trust without the proof. But there's also that other element in the decision making for anybody and what they're doing that is their core motivation, whatever that is. And while some people will say it's money that's the core motivation, that money just allows them to do something else, right? Having more money
Absolutely.
allows them to spend more time with their kids or to employ people so
Yeah,
they can spend time with the kids or whatever it is. So yeah,
absolutely.
so that's like taking control over their the amount they earn, when they earn, when they work, that kind of stuff. So yeah. So I think there's absolutely tons that I could keep on asking you and going through with this whole thing.
Of course,
But
mate.
I've got a couple of important questions I think I wanted to ask you. What what turns a buyer off if they're looking at, the opportunity with a seller from a franchise brand, and they've, things seem to be going quite well, but I'm sure it will have happened. They'll get turned off at some point. Something will happen. What's the kind of core reason why buyers move away from the deal?
I'm going to say that it's information that doesn't make sense. And what I mean by that, and we can draw parallels to recruitment, which would be useful when it goes into the mindset of recruitment versus resales, is with a resale again. I hate to bang on about it, but they're buying into a franchise model first and foremost, as a whole, that they've got security around that, but they're buying into an existing franchise model, which means that, from their point of view, there shouldn't be any surprises in terms of what they're going to receive. So yeah, probably refining the word that I was using is surprises. If the business isn't doing what it's saying it says that it does from a operational point of view, from a financial point of view, that turns them off. If it's open, honest, transparent, or it's made aware at the time that things happen, that's different, because everyone knows that businesses are a moving picture. A performance one month could be loads better than a performance the next month, or loads worse because of a reason. But yeah, the biggest thing is me being ex-buyer and spending X amount of time looking at an opportunity, for there to be something within the information that's been provided that's been covered up or navigated around, and ultimately it's only a matter of time, before you find out. Unfortunately for some, that can be as late as once they've bought the business, but the reality is that buyers are relatively savvy nowadays. They're getting savvier as well, and one point I'd probably mention is around AI and the use of AI in terms of growing that savviness around buying existing businesses. They know more so now what to look for than before, and yeah, I would say that when they find a surprise, it typically makes them walk
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
I can imagine. So, what from your point of view, what from your perspective would you like to see franchisors or their franchisee sellers do more of? Now, I appreciate a lot of the work is on your side, and you add a lot of value in that process. I mean, I didn't realize how many sort of different angles you had to think about. So I've learned a lot from this, and the respect is growing for what you do. But yeah, from your perspective, there must be something that maybe franchisors or the sellers are not doing that you'd like to see them do more often. Because I'd imagine there's probably a few frustrations there, some occasionally.
Yeah, franchisors, things, franchisors, franchisees. It's probably going to be, um, around the the preparation side of things, and probably more specifically is preparation for, um,
Do you mean like pulling together the numbers, or in terms of the ins and outs of the operations?
no, I would say it doesn't take. Look, any business at any point is available for resale, whether we like it or not. Your business could be a very, normal performing, well performing franchise that you think, I'm going to run this for the next 10 years and hand it on to my 6-year-old that's going to be 17, or my 12-year-old that's going to be 24, or whatever it may be, and they're going to sell off in the sunset. And then the next day, for whatever reason, you may have to sell that business. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're on a limited time frame in terms of why I need to sell, it doesn't mean that you can't prepare and get as much information together as possible. And I think it's probably usefulness of and willingness to gather, to build, to get in the process of gathering data that again supports their case for whatever they're looking to do to sell sooner, and why that is, or to build, sell their business for a high profit. Yeah, I would probably say that the biggest thing is just completely understanding what the key sort of pillars are in terms of maximizing opportunity to sell, and whatever stage that you're at, ensuring that you prepare for that. But again, it's a common frustration, but it's also something that we're very very used to dealing with. It just means that if I bring you, you come to me and say, I want to sell my business, it might be that we get your business today and we're ready to sell it in 6, 12 months' time, as opposed to we get your business today, you provide us information tomorrow, and we're ready to get it marketed in a week's time. And I've already got, answers to questions that I know that buyers are going to ask me that haven't already been asked. So yeah, I would say it's probably just a bit more around preparation, which makes the reality of that, sometimes quite long timeline a little bit more manageable and realistic.
So I guess a lot of that comes down to kind of exit strategy planning, doesn't it? Like thinking about it in advance before it actually
Yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Do you have any resources available that you could share with franchisors around that, or
of course.
you've got any webinars or anything coming up? I'm just thinking if we can direct
Yeah, yeah.
people towards you to help them get in preparation for any of their prospective franchisees, then first of all they know who to go and
Absolutely.
speak to, but also there might be a good resource there.
Yeah, of course, mate. So the main thing that we do is we host seminars for franchisors specific to their brand, and that can be at conferences, that can be at a certain point in the year where they just invite franchisees to a Zoom call. It can be whatever they want. But I would say the most important thing is yeah, the biggest resource that we offer is that almost one-to-one or one to the network, specific to their opportunity. This is the best way that you can maximize the value of your business, or maximizes your chance of selling, or you know minimize the time frame that it takes you to sell your business. So yeah, I would say that's it. Seminars, online seminars, that sort of thing. But I do want to just say that there's one thing, and what I've seen an awful lot of before around exit strategy is, just saying, oh, you need to prepare years in advance, and you need to gather all of the data, and you need to be thinking about slowly exiting your business. I think just being a tiny bit controversial, it's all true on paper and practically, or in theory, but the practical reality of it is sometimes, even things such as having the cleanest set of accounts. It might be the best practical advice to bring a buyer in on day one, but it's not the most tax efficient advice that I would give. And ultimately, if I'm a seller, I'm probably thinking more so about what's my net return, i.e., what am I going to, over the next 5 years, including my sale price and the income that I take from this business, going to take. And the reality is that if they're running the cleanest sets of accounts, their tax is going to be a lot higher. Their net outcome could actually be worse by having it all sort of balances out, is what I say. So I try to make, if we do sessions like that with networks, and when we do sessions like that with networks, it's not just about talking about the theory of exiting your business, and these are all the great, practical steps that you can take, and the $1 million strategy to how you exit your business. It's actual practical. These are the realistic things that you can do to be sensible and walk away with a sensible amount, or a sensible outcome, so to speak. Because sometimes it's not amount, sometimes it's time frame, sometimes it's um, how stressful it can. There's more to it than just
Factors,
financial,
yeah.
mate.
And,
So
and and
yeah,
what's right for today isn't necessarily right for tomorrow as well. It's like business
100%.
plans, right? It's more a guide or a direction to head in, isn't it, rather than a
Yeah,
strict
yeah,
set of
absolutely.
guidelines that you should follow. So no, I get that, and
Yeah,
yeah, what we'll do is if you send over any links to me or where people should go to get in contact with you, we'll put them in
I
the
appreciate that,
podcast
mate.
show notes, and
That'd be good.
yeah, I. I'm looking at the
Cool.
time now. I'm thinking we've been going for nearly an hour. It feels like
Oh,
so.
it's me waffling, mate. That's what it is.
Not far off anyway. Not far off. So I appreciate your time, and yeah, just want to say thank you for
Nice,
sharing
mate.
your insights there. I feel like I've learned a bit already, mate. So I'm sure there'll be others out there
Hopefully.
who definitely learn as well. But yeah,
Oh,
thanks very
nice.
much for joining us today.
Hopefully. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. And yeah, hopefully there's some bits to take away from that. I think the key thing is that recruitment and resales are. I do think the type of buyers are quite different. Well, are very different. Again, sorry to reiterate myself. It goes back to that ladder of someone that's willing, not necessarily wanting to, but willing to go back to being an an operator within their business when they could have been an MD or a director or a manager or a supervisor. They're willing to go back to that level. That is a different type of individual to a lot of people for resales that aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to go down too many pegs, or they want to go upwards potentially as well. So yeah.
We could do a whole part two on that, I think, like where we talk about that type of person and where they see themselves and how franchisors perhaps need to prepare themselves for people like that, because they're a different beast to someone who's starting off fresh and is willing to get on the tools, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely a part two to that. I can
Whole
talk
other
about that all
challenge
day.
there, right?
Yeah,
Nice
yeah,
one. Awesome. Well, George, thanks so much for that. As I
cool.
say, pleasure speaking with you, and yeah, catch up with you soon.
Legend. Thank you,
Take it
mate.
easy,
Really
mate.
appreciate
Cheers.
it. Cheers, pal.